Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I'm your humble host, the Pod Boy, in the seat today, leading you up to the Vince Show, coming your way at 11 o'clock. Another outstanding Monday in the morning today. Appreciate all the great work that Pete does. Later this hour, I will have information to share with you about Pete, something that I did, that I've been doing alongside with Pete. He doesn't even know where I'm going with this. I don't know if he's still listening down the line or what the deal is, but it's going to be very interesting. So I'll have that for you coming up, in about 30 minutes or so. Also, we're going to talk about why Democrats changed their mind too late on all the issues they're wrong about. The latest, Pete Buttigieg is on board with boys not playing in girls' sports. I mean, did these people know 24 was an election year? And now they just cave on these things? And, of course, we'll have some fun with Mark as the broadcast goes along today, including different Travis Kelce news and Kai Trump news. Think about those together. Think about Travis Kelce news and Kai Trump news and the most famous entertainer in the world. Think about how this could all be meshed together as one story. That's coming up later on Uncanceled. We start with the golden age of America and all these good economic indicators coming out once again, as we have a 3% GDP growth after the first quarter, which would have been basically the first month was Biden of this year, and then 2 months of Trump and just taking over and trying to dig out. I think we had a 0.5 point negative GDP, and now in the second quarter, 3% increase, which is some 40% higher than what the experts expected in quarter two. It is going well. There is no inflation. We're holding steady on all that. Today, the Fed meets, the board of governors of the Federal Reserve meet, and Jay Powell will likely tell us this afternoon that they are not lowering interest rates. Even though Trump was optimistic last week that he had made some progress with Powell, it's probably not going to be enough for them to change their mind this quickly, although there's been a couple of outspoken members. It's a 12-person board, and a couple have been very outspoken that it's time, it's go time, that we're getting very close to being too late on this. And we don't want to have problems waiting too long. Look, I think we should lower rates. We can all have disagreements on these things, but for two reasons. One is I trust and believe in Trump, that his instincts are right on all these things because I'm trying to find the thing he was wrong about. So that's number one. Like, he knows more than we do. He's seeing all the data. He's got people around him. If you don't believe in Scott Bessent and some of the things they're doing fiscally right now, Lutnick and Lee Zeldin over at the EPA is apparently going to find a way to cut $1 trillion over time by getting rid of Obama's 2009 mandate with the Green New Scam. I mean, they're finding things that are economically great for America. And as these all kick in and we raise more money through tariffs and everything changes and the economy gets better and the GDP is popping 3% when they're expecting 1 point something, I think it's probably okay to lower rates. I think we should do it. And my self-interest here is my children. My kids are in their late 20s and early 30s. One of them has purchased a home at a really high interest rate because it just happened a little over a year ago. And that's unfortunate for him. But they're getting ready to have their first child, which would be my first grandchild. And they live in a place that's expensive to live in Phoenix. And it's not that easy for them. They have a nice home. It's great. But, you could see where if they could cut their interest rate by 2 or 3 points, they could save, I don't know, $700, $800, $900 a month. You know how far that would go? And then the other two have just basically said, we're priced out. We can't do it yet. They're not double income. So it's one of those things. I'm like, I see this. My kids are smart. They all went to college. They're doing well. They all have good jobs. This isn't supposed to be that hard. And I get on them a little bit because their generation's choices are far different than mine were in my 20s, where the single most important thing was to buy a house. Theirs was out of college. The single most important thing was to travel before you have the burden of being responsible to somebody else. So they took a great part of their 20s. Like my son that lives in Texas has probably been to Europe 4 or 5 times. I've never been to Europe. I want to go play Scotland and Ireland, play golf sometime. I just haven't done it. I've worked. I just came from a generation that works. And, I'm not a slave to it. I enjoy what I do. That's the blessing, is I really like doing this, or I wouldn't do it every day. So I love doing it, and that's awesome. But their generation is a little bit different. So they delayed that a little bit. But now as they get into their late 20s and early 30s, they're like, wait a second, what about us and a house? And I may make a snide remark like, well, you remember those thousands and thousands of dollars you spent on your trips? If you had all that right now, you'd have the down payment. And then they come back with, yeah, but it's still a 7% interest rate. That's ridiculous. And I don't have much of a response other than if you were trying to buy a house when Jimmy Carter was president, the interest rates were 17%, not 7%. In some places higher than that. But bring them down. Help people out. The mortgage industry's been suffering. The real estate industry's just sitting there waiting to pop. This is the biggest, where they say the biggest economic engine in America is energy, and I believe that because everything's attached to energy. But beyond that, it's homes, it's housing. That's just where all the money is in this country. And if you think 3% GDP is good for now, wait till you see what happens over this Trump golden age. And that's exactly what it's going to be. The only scary part remains the tariffs. And he has announced, as you heard Pete say just a little while ago, that he's imposing a 25% tariff on India as of right now because of their purchase of Russian oil. Now, this is interesting because the deal deadline is tomorrow, August 1, right? That's the deadline on this thing, or tomorrow's the 31st. The deal deadline is Friday, August 1. So each country has to have their deal in place with the United States by then, or he's just going to slap them with an across-the-board tariff. Trump's people have also indicated that if and when Russia does not come to the table and start to settle this war with Ukraine and take the land that they've got and call an end to this thing, that Trump is going to put sanctions on Russia that will be a 100% tariff on Russian oil. In other words, India and China are the biggest purchasers of Russian oil. It's about 7 million barrels a day going to China and India. We're talking about billions of people live in those two countries. And if Trump puts sanctions on them and there's a tariff on all that oil with those countries, they're going to have to pay up. He's essentially going to put a gun to their head and say, stop buying Russian oil. Now, I don't know how you're going to go from saying, okay, India's 25% right now, we're mad you're buying the oil, to on Friday saying, or next week saying we have sanctions now and we're going to 100%. This thing's going to get wild over the next week. I don't know how it's going to end. I trust in the guy. I figure he knows what he's doing, but it does look like the reason he moved the threat to Russia up to 10 days or 12 days from 50 was to implement this thing next week and go ahead and put sanctions on Russia. There are a lot of economic experts in America that say if Trump puts the sanctions on Russia and the tariffs and the things that he's going to do to them economically, if they don't come to the table, it will devastate them. Their oil money will dry up. Here's what they're doing in Russia with their oil money. There's 7 million barrels a day. They're taking the profit and the money from that, and they're paying massive bonuses to Russian citizens who will sign up and go fight the war. Massive bonuses, tens of thousands of dollars, American dollars, to Russians to say, okay, here's this for your family, you go fight. There are literally people putting their life on their line for Mother Russia because they're getting paid so much money for their wife and kids or whatever to get out of debt, to pay off their house, whatever it may be. It's nuts. The rest of the world's on fire, folks. The rest of the world's crazy. If you think Trump has disrupted the apple cart in America, you should see some of the stuff going on in these other places. Now, I know we're offering $50,000 bonuses to ICE agents in the United States. We're hiring 10,000 new ICE agents. Some of these are office jobs. They're not the dangerous agent jobs, but it's 10,000 new employees at ICE with a $50,000 bonus to go start. That's massive. That's a big deal. Generally speaking, that is not an offer to go get killed for a bonus for your family like they're doing in Russia, which is essentially what they're saying. People are dying right and left in that war. Trump's indicated it's into the millions of people that have died fighting that stupid war, and it needs to end. So we have all these great things going on, all these economic indicators. The only thing left really is this Russia, the tumult and all of the panic and mayhem around whether the sanctions will come. And now we have China and India. Those are not settled yet. Scott Bessent has indicated this week that they're very close on China. President Xi has said he wants Trump to visit China, and then Xi would visit America too. Not necessarily as like a summit, not like next week to get this thing done, but over the course of Trump's presidency. They want to be friendly. They want to get this done. We will see what happens in the next 48 hours with these things. Everybody's going to hold off. I think Jerome Powell's going to hold off. I don't think he's going to lower interest rates. And to be honest, I think they should, but I don't know that today's the day. I think with these deadlines pending and the possibility of sanctions on Russia, we better hang on just for a second here. Our trade deficit with India is $46 billion a year. That's why Trump hit him with 25% today. He said they're ripping us off. That's it, 25%. Cross the board on everything you do there. Folks, this is a funny one. Apple, over the last couple of years, has moved almost all of its production of American iPhones from China to India to avoid supply chain problems like we had during COVID. And now India is the place with the high tariff on your next iPhone. You can't figure this stuff out. Our American companies don't have any. It's got to be tough to be the people at the top of these corporations trying to figure out, because they're global entities, how this is all going to work. And what Trump has told them specifically is just build in America. You won't have any problem. If you just build plants here and make your stuff here that you sell here, you can still have your plants around the world and make it cheaper and sell it elsewhere. But if you build it here and sell it here, it doesn't matter what we do with these other countries. Just do it, as one giant corporation would say. It's pretty wild, man. I'm not gonna kid you. It's pretty wild what's going on right now. Love to hear your thoughts. I know we've had some calls in the past from people who are really good with investments or economists. I love that. 913-408-7957. That's 408-7957. Our phone lines are wide open if you want to join right in. We'll continue on Uncanceled. I'll tell you about Pete Buttigieg waiting too late to change his mind and other examples of why Democrats always miss the boat when they're wrong on issues. We'll do that next on KCMO Talk Radio. Hey, thanks so much for listening to the show today. Great to have you with us. It's going to be cooling off later today. Highs in the 70s tomorrow and Friday. Unbelievable. From a heat index of 119 on Saturday in Maryville to what will feel like about 70 degrees. It's going to be a welcome change, if only for a couple of days before it heats back up. So the Democrats are in a bad way. We talked about this yesterday on the show a little bit. I came across this post earlier today on X. It's nobody you know. It's not anybody famous, but it got me thinking. I sure would like to hear somebody of note put an exclamation point behind this, whether it's a Republican politician or somebody in the Trump administration or somebody that may know, because this sounds right to me, but I don't know any way that we can prove this. This gentleman posted USAID got defunded. You guys remember USAID, the $50 billion a year wasteful program where we were doing all kinds of weird stuff all over the world? Well, it's no surprise that later it was found that money was going from USAID to some media establishments that lean left. That has been reported. But this post is great. It's been several months since this was defunded. USAID got defunded. Now, the DNC is broke. Democrat candidates are largely broke. PBS is broke. NPR is broke. Media Matters is broke. Planned Parenthood is broke. CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC are laying people off. The New York Times and Washington Post are laying people off. Facebook is laying people off. Google's laying people off. Disney's laying people off. Paramount's laying people off. I'm sure there's no connection to the USAID shutdown. And so it's kind of an interesting premise. All right, if you defund all these government things, if we really truly believe, and I do believe, that the deep state, however you want to define it, the deep state to me is left of center, pretty far left of center. That's not to say there aren't Republicans involved in the deep state. I mean, Mitch McConnell might be the epitome of a deep stater. There's plenty of Republicans been on this. When I hear Josh Hawley say he wants to give everybody $600, it sounds like he's part of the problem. So we know what most people think of the deep state is just a government that's working against them, that they're just giving money, taxing the living daylights out of us, and then giving the money away to things that have no bearing on anything other than the people who they're funding, which are largely their political allies. That's what USAID sounded like. But this is such a typical Democrat thing. They couldn't see any of this coming. We had an election last year, and every single one of these people was standing up for boys playing in women's sports. It was ridiculous. And now here we are, end of July 2025. Pete Buttigieg is doing an interview, and he says, I can understand where that's there's a fundamental issue of fairness, and then I think he even used the word safety or competitive balance or something like that. Like, okay, so he's done a 180. He didn't believe that a year ago. So they watched the polling, they watched the election results. Elections do matter, but this is really important. The American public has to remember that now when they change their stance, they're actually lying. That's the lie. Okay? Pete Buttigieg wants to stand for boys playing in girls' sports. He just realizes politically he can't. We've seen this with Rahm Emanuel, who's in Chicago, one of Obama's guys. He'll probably be running for president. We've seen Gavin Newsom now say that the $20 billion that he spent on homelessness has been a waste. We've got to find a better way and do these other things. They're all trying to figure this out. But what is always amazing to me is the Democrats can't see the forest for the trees. I said on my podcast a year and a half ago, let's say, maybe this was like January of 24. I said this election is so winnable for Joe Biden. I think they're going to blow it. I think he's not going to run. I predicted that a long time ago. I think he's not going to run. I thought their best play was, hey, I'm not healthy enough to run, have a primary, find somebody younger and a better candidate. But short of that, I said there's one guarantee for Joe Biden. He could win, even as a crazy old man that he is, he could win. If he would just this spring, this would have been spring of 24, a little over a year ago, close the border. If he closed it in March or April of 24, which Trump did very quickly here in 90 days. I mean, basically the border was shut down in 30 days by Trump. If he just closed the border and deported and caught, let's say, 1,000 illegal alien criminals and said, you know, Congress wouldn't act. I couldn't get them to help, but I got this done. You would have completely negated the most appealing thing about Trump to American voters. He could have won and opened it back up. He wouldn't even have to say, I'm going to keep it closed. Just, I closed it. They can't do it in that party because they don't really stand for anything. They don't have it. They don't have what it takes to be on the right side of an issue and say, look, the right thing is to protect Americans. Let's just do this. We can win the election, but I got to go against the crazy left in my party. We do need a safer country. We do need closed borders. This is an 80-20 issue. These are such easy things for the American people. When you're talking about boys and girls sports, you're talking about closing a border. And yet here it's like it's been 9 months since the election. And now they're starting to turn? For what? For the midterm? They think they're going to win in the midterm now because they're like, okay, with only girls playing against girls? And why would you believe somebody when they change their mind on that issue? Oh, the election outcome changed your mind. This is a real problem for their party. Either that or they just have absolutely no feel for the American public or no connection to the majority of Americans is probably the way to say it. When you're hooked in with the elite, high-level Democrat machine, and that's not just politicians, that's lawyers, that's the education unions, the teachers unions, that's the media. It's all these massive institutions, a lot of Silicon Valley, massive institutions. When you're just bogged down in that world and don't know the people that live in your country anymore, you're going to get this stuff wrong. And boy, they got it wrong in 2024. There's no question about it. I think it's just funny to watch them do the 180s on some of these issues. Next thing you know, they're going to be Make America Healthy again. I can't wait for the first series of anti-vax Democrats to come out and say, you know what? We can see it now. There was some damage done by that vaccine. We shouldn't have pushed that. You know, why wouldn't somebody criticize the Biden administration? If you're going to run for president in 28 as a Democrat, you better be prepared to throw Joe Biden under the bus completely. You got to run way against that dude and everything he did. I'm waiting for that to start happening. It's going to be fun to watch them, and they'll find a way to fail again because they're not very good at this. All right, when we come back, Sydney Sweeney. We haven't touched that here on Uncanceled. Why this is a great thing. It's a great thing that they're going after her. And Pete was on my podcast today. That's next on Uncanceled. Well, there's no hassle in my world with Sydney Sweeney doing these jeans ads. And it's caught America's attention because so many people on the left just lost their mind over this thing and started going crazy that, you know, we've got all this. Well, ABC News, Good Morning America, thought it was Nazi propaganda, that it was promoting some blonde-haired, blue-eyed, perfect race that is genetically better than other people on this planet, which is insane. So this is great when this happens. And I know that there's been a lot of outrage and people hand-wringing, and, you know, we as Republicans will go, oh, these crazy people on the left. We need more of this. I'm scared it's going to go away. This is how they lose. We just talked about it in the last segment. How they lose is when they say, it's okay for boys to play against girls. And then you see a girl get smashed in the face by a volleyball being spiked at her. And the nose is bleeding all over the court. When you see those, you're like, no, that's not right. Okay? When crazy people on the left look at Sydney Sweeney fully clothed, like denim head to toe, not just the jeans, she's got a jean jacket on. There's a little cleavage there. These weren't on the sexy level, 1 to 10. These weren't that high. I mean, she's done sexy things. This isn't it. The jeans are actually kind of loose on her. I guess maybe that's what they're promoting now is more loose. I don't know. But, and it was kind of a throwback. There's a Mustang, an older Mustang in one of the ads. When these people lose their mind and say this is racist and American Eagle is racist and we're going to boycott, we're going to do this, it's a win for all of us. We want all of this we can get, folks. We want every ounce of this. The more they do of this, the better it is for Republicans. We talked yesterday on the show about that 63% poll. 63% of Americans view the Democrat Party unfavorably. The Wall Street Journal started polling in 1990. That's the worst number for any party ever in a Wall Street Journal poll. How do you think they got there? Well, they got there from all these years of, well, George Floyd, you're a racist. If you don't think this cop committed murder, this guy who was overdosing on drugs here, shaking in convulsions on the street and swinging wildly at the cops, and he might have killed himself inside the car. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the video of George Floyd inside the car. He was banging his head against the seats like he was crazed out of his mind. And so we had that story. And when they have so many other things that have popped up, the most recent, as we mentioned last year, boys and girls sports and some of these other things. But the Dems own the vaccine. They own the mandates. They own the masks. They own you can't go swimming at the beach because of COVID. They own all this stuff. And as they just do more and more and more of it, the better it gets for the other party. We'll take votes by default. We'll take votes in the Republican Party because people don't like the Democrats. You don't have to write anywhere down that you love the guy you're voting for. Scott Jennings of CNN was on the PBD podcast, and he said he didn't get Trump. He said, I didn't fully understand Trump. Now, I'm a guy that fully understood him way before the escalator. Like, I saw Trump in the airplane hangar with Barack Obama, a copy of Barack Obama's birth certificate, and his Trump airplane back behind him. And I'm watching that live in my office one day, and I call a couple guys in, and I'm like, look at this. I said, if this guy runs, he's going to win. And they laughed. Oh, that's funny. I said, no. He's speaking to people right now. Something's going on. So I got him right away. And what I got was Trump is strong, and he was America first. Before he said make America great again or America first, I knew that. He was looking out for the best interest of our country instead of all this globalism that we've had beginning with Obama. That's what we became. So let them do their thing. When they do their thing, it's okay. Scott Jennings said, I voted for Trump 3 times, but I didn't really like voting for him. I just couldn't vote for the Democrat. He said, now I've learned. I'm 100% with Trump. He said, I've been a Republican my whole life. He's taught me a lot about being a Republican. That the main difference is our party loves America and their party hates it. And he's pointed that out to American voters. And yes, there's a lot of people that bit their tongue, bit their lip, did whatever, bit the bullet, and went in there and pulled the lever for Trump because they certainly weren't voting for the Democrat. We need more of that. And the more of these Sydney Sweeney stories that come out, the better. This is what we want. Don't want this to end. Please don't want this to end. Everybody's like, oh, these people are crazy. We're so tired of these lunatics on the left. Keep it up and let them do it. If we get too much change here, we got a problem. Like CBS News is probably going to become straightforward and not liberal with their new owners. Let ABC have that lane. ABC, Good Morning America. You want to go be crazy about a jeans ad? Did you know this was essentially a ripoff from a Brooke Shields ad in the 80s where she did a 60-second commercial and laid on the ground in jeans? And it was much sexier than this one. And they were tight jeans. And she did these like leg curl gymnastic moves and things. And she's talking the whole time. And it's all about genetics. It was the same sort of campaign. This has happened before. But it was even more over the top about genetics and not the genes themselves. I think those were for Calvin Klein back in the day that she did. This has been done before, but they didn't lose their mind in their 80s. In the 80s, they're losing it now, and we like it. I don't badmouth it. We need those crazy people to continue to have a platform somewhere, and it doesn't take much. Just get it out there somewhere on some network and let it hit social media and do its thing, because then the dominoes just start tumbling. And that's how you get the Democrats to 63% disapproval. And Scott Jennings said, they keep taking 20% on the 80-20 issues. I'm not a math major, but something tells me that 63% is headed to 80. Because if they just keep doing these things, it's going to get worse and worse. Some of them are trying to change on some of their stances, but it's not working. I love this, man. I absolutely love this. Keep it up. Crazies on the left, keep it up. So about 10 weeks ago, I walked into this studio, and Pete had just finished his show, and he'd been on Josh Hawley that day pretty hard for something that Hawley did, and I don't remember what the issue was. I understood why Pete was on him about it. I thought Josh Hawley was going a different direction. My interpretation of it was different, but it was not anything I ever brought up on my show or my podcast or anything, because I was like, that's not my issue. That's Pete's. Awesome. I said, man, you're kind of tough on Hawley. He goes, like every now and then, like 1 out of every 7 or 8 issues he comes up with is just loony. And I said, I'll start watching that, because I've been a big Josh Hawley fan, but I'm mostly a big Josh Hawley fan because I like watching him in those Senate hearings where he just grills liberals out of their minds. It's so much fun to watch him work in those hearings. So I like Josh Hawley. But then he did the campaign thing last year that was kind of awkward at the state fair. You're like, ooh, that was awkward. He got in a guy's face and challenged him or something. I think Josh Hawley has something about him that's a little awkward here and there. I get that. I can see that. But I wasn't willing really to like open my eyes a lot to what Pete was saying. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll start watching. And I told Pete today, he didn't know this. I said, you're the lead on my podcast today. My podcast is Kevin Keatsman Has Issues. It's online at kkhasissues.com. It's very simple to go there or anywhere you listen to podcasts. I do it daily. And the lead story is, I won't share it all here. You can go listen to the podcast, of Pete mentioning that to me, and then what I have viewed, and now Josh Hawley wanting to give $600 to every American. After it looks like we're finally getting fiscally responsible, Josh Hawley's the guy that wants to give the money away? I'll stick with the Keatsman plan. My plan is take every nickel from tariffs and pay down the principal on the debt, not the interest. Make Congress deal with that. They're the ones that have approved all this crap we're spending money on. Make them pay the interest. Every nickel from tariffs, 100%, should go straight toward paying down the principal that's owed on this debt. Let's go. If it's $500 billion this year, let's pay $500 billion down. We'll go from $33 trillion to $32.5 trillion. That's baby steps, but it's moving in the right direction. And if we can do that and find a way for the rest of it to level off, and Trump thinks by lowering interest rates 2 points, it would save almost $1 trillion a year, we're getting close to balancing the thing. That's no time to be giving money away to people. It's one of the most deep state Democrat things I've ever heard a supposedly conservative Republican say. Now, if it were a year from now, and the midterm elections were coming up in 3 months, 3.5 months, I'd go, okay, I guess I understand why they're doing this. It's a strictly election year political play that they want to do something on, and I could maybe see it. But short of that, I don't even understand Josh Hawley on some of these things. So I'm with Pete on that, and I'll explain the whole story. If you listen to my podcast, it explains how he taught me to have an eye on Josh Hawley. It's kkhasissues.com if you want to check out the podcast anytime. Here is David from Overland Park. Good morning, David. You're on Uncanceled. How are you today, sir?
Real well, thank you. I'm for letting the left show that it's morally bankrupt and that it politically leftism does not work. So let's have Mondami elected mayor of New York and see what happens. And Kevin, I'll take your bet, and I'll bet you pretty much any amount of money I have, which isn't a lot, to that he will be elected because of the plurality voting system. He won't get a majority, but he'll be first around the bend. I know that's how you like elections. So he'll win a plurality of votes, and let's see what happens. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, I'm not predicting that he's losing. I said I think there's a chance that he could, and it really depends on how many candidates are in and how the thing shakes out. If there's enough if they can get if they get Cuomo or another Democrat in there to be on the ballot, it's going to take a lot of votes away from him. Yeah, I've heard people say there might be 35% Republican voters baked into this Sliwa guy. I mean, if you get enough candidates in there and every Republican's voting for one guy, you'd have a chance. I don't know. I'm no expert on New York politics. I don't disagree with you. If he got in there, it might be a good midterm thing to look at and say, well, look what's going on in New York. There's another one in Minneapolis, and he's even younger, and he might be even more crazy than Mamdani, and it looks like he's going to be the mayoral candidate that's going to win in Minneapolis. This is going to happen in more and more places. I don't know what would happen if a communist ran in Kansas City, Missouri, but I suspect if the communist was running as a Democrat, the communist would win.
I think you're right.
It's a shame.
Especially with plurality voting, where, you get a lot of people, you're their first choice. Even if you're nobody's second choice, you're going to win if you can get, 32% of the vote.
Yeah, so who wins, but I'm not...
You think that person's going to get a majority? No way.
Who wins, but I'm not sure the general mayoral election in New York is ranked choice, is it?
It's not.
Yeah, okay,
That's
good.
why I'm saying.
So, you're talking about two different things.
I think Mamdani can win.
I know, but a lot of people thought maybe you were talking about ranked choice, which is a totally different way of voting, and I hate it. I hate ranked choice.
Well, it's a great system if it's properly implemented. There's different types of ranked choice systems. But, hey, Kevin, here's the point. The New York City general election is not ranked choice, and that's why Mamdani's going to win, because he can get a plurality of votes, right, even though it won't be a majority.
Yeah, he could win. If there's enough people in it, somebody could win with 30%, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's correct. But that's also the avenue for the Republican to win. If there's 35% Republicans out there and 65% others, and there's 4 candidates for those 65% in the other, you got a shot if you've got 35%.
Curtis Sliwa would be great. I followed him since the 80s, but
seems like a long
I wouldn't
shot.
bet on him.
Yeah. Well, and wouldn't you think that most Democrats would vote for the current mayor right now over Mamdani?
No, Sliwa is actually ahead of Eric Adams.
Really? In a 3-way race?
Yeah, barely.
In a 3-way race, Mamdani?
Oh, I don't know about a 3-way. In a 4-way, it's Mamdani, then Cuomo, then Sliwa, then Adams.
Yeah, I wonder what it is without Cuomo's not announced that he's in, right?
Yeah, he is in.
He has announced he's in. You're following the New York City mayoral election a lot closer than me. I'll take your word for it. I didn't think he was in yet. I thought Trump was trying to get him in, but he had not announced that. But if he has, great. I guess great. Can we get 5 more Democrats on the ballot? Right? Thanks for the call, man. I'm not going to pay that much attention to New York until the guy wins. And if and when he does and crazy stuff happens, we'll talk about it. I think we get force-fed a lot of New York news here and around the country. Things happen there, and it gets force-fed to us. And there's the classic example. The same things happen in Minneapolis, but you don't hear about it. You hear about it because it's New York, and that's where all the media are. When Uncanceled continues, Mark will join us how Kai Trump and Travis Kelce are connected next on Uncanceled. Well, we like to talk about people in the final segment each day with Mark Van Parlay, he's gonna have a new nickname in the fall when this TV show comes on. That's going to be it, Mark. You'll never be Mark again to me. You know your nickname, don't you?
Yep.
I can't say it, but it's clean. It's not that.
Oh, yeah.
It just, there's agreements have been signed that you can't say it, but it'll definitely be your nickname forever.
All right.
There's no getting rid of that one. So good to have you back. That was fun today, taking calls from the listeners, wasn't it, about your role as a stand-in?
It was a good time.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite question?
The one about the accordion was pretty funny. What song would I play for the cast if they knew I played accordion?
That's a great question. And you said the theme song?
The theme song, yeah, that would be a good one to play.
Let's talk celebrities here. Seth Meyers is a late-night host. It's not going well for these people. He said on a podcast, what is it about some of these liberals? He says, quote, I would worry about myself like mental health-wise, unquote, if I got canceled. Wait, you've been doing this for 13 years. You have tens of millions of dollars, and you would have a mental health crisis if your television network decided they were going a different direction with that time slot. You're in the wrong business, my friend. What is that, Mark? A mental health? Do you talk about like your mental health all the time in interviews?
They gotta let it slide off their shoulder, right?
No kidding.
Whenever I don't get it.
How arrogant is? I would worry about myself like mental health wise if my show got canceled. Whew. Wow, that's tough. I hate to be. There must be some demons every single day if you're living that life. That's a tough one. Kai Trump is Donald Trump's granddaughter. And she's lovely, and she's a terrific golfer, and she's going to the University of Miami, and she signed her first NIL deal. And it's a very fun little commercial where she walks over to a cooler while playing golf to get something to drink out of the cooler. And there's a whole bunch of Diet Coke sitting in there, and she passes on those and reaches over and grabs a can of Accelerator energy drink and says, "Sorry, Grandpa," because she skips Donald Trump's Diet Coke and goes with Accelerator energy drink. Accelerator energy drink is partly owned by Travis Kelce. Is that crazy?
I think it's smart. I mean, he's a good businessman, it looks like.
Had you heard of Accelerator before now?
Yes. So I listen to their podcast, and they talk about it all the time.
All the time. Okay. And so is Jason Kelce in it as well?
I don't know. Yeah. I think they're both in it.
They're both partners in it? Okay. And what do they pitch about this thing that's better than others?
I don't know. Exactly.
I haven't seen him do anything for it. So is it just on the podcast?
It's on the podcast. He's done a couple commercials for it, I think. I think Travis did one with, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but some kind of supermodel.
Okay.
So a couple of them have done it, yeah.
It didn't say anywhere in the story that I saw how much she got paid. But I'm going to guess it's $1 million, right?
Yeah, something pretty
Kai
high.
Trump, sign her up. She got all her tailor-made gear on. She's ready to go, man. That'll be interesting to see if she's really good enough to be a college golfer or if she's there because she's Kai Trump. Is that fair?
That's fair. I think that she's had enough time on the course to become pretty good, though.
Right, but a golf program, if I'm correct, may have 8 or 10 players or more and only 5 play in a tournament.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm curious to see if she will rise to the level where she's like a player for her team. Todd Haley, the former Chiefs coach, claims to have been a University of Florida golfer, but he was not on scholarship. His dad got him on there. He's terrible. I watched him play at the American Century Championship one year. He shot like 88. He never played in any of the tournaments for Florida. He just got to travel on all the trips and hang out.
He's like an alternate if somebody gets hurt?
Wasn't even an alternate. He was like the well, you know how at a KU basketball game, eventually they get down to the water boy goes out and plays, right?
Yeah.
That was Todd Haley on the golf.
Hayes State or whatever,
right. Yeah. That was Todd Haley on the golf team. I think Kai Trump is better than that. We'll see. Marcus Morris got arrested in Florida at an airport. Felony fraud. This one in his law, I'm gonna take his side on this one, and the lawyer who said this is a mistake. This is going to get cleaned up really quickly. They got him for felony fraud because he was in the computer when he checked in with his ID from another state where he wrote a check to a casino that bounced. He borrowed money from the casino. He had a line of credit, and then he went to pay it off, and it bounced. Now, look, if the check was $250,000, that's a real crime. But the law says if it's $1,200 or more, they can turn you in for a warrant to be arrested. So it could have been a small amount. I guess we'll wait and we'll see on that one. I think it makes a difference. And the Kelce, Mr. Kelce, Travis Kelce, and Patrick Mahomes went to 1587. We talked about this yesterday. I don't remember that.
No, I did see it, though.
They tasted the steak. I only want to know one thing. What kind of ketchup will they serve on the steak?
Yes. I was waiting for Patrick to dip his in there.
Oh, he doesn't dip. He spreads it all over the top. He just empties like a half a bottle of ketchup on his steak and eats it. I'm not going to be doing that at 1587. I think the steak's going to be better than that. The Vince Show's coming up next.